That night remains etched in my memory, defined by the unexpected rise of my sister's voice. What appears to be the problem? As I sat before the screen, the atmosphere surrounding me was truly remarkable. "John, where have you disappeared to? I am in need of help. What appears to be the problem?" Imbued with a palpable sense of urgency, as if an impending crisis was at hand, I jumped to my feet and asked, "What's the matter?" Her voice echoed from the restroom, filled with disbelief. I had neglected my clothing. "Would you be so gracious as to come to my room and bring them to me?" My sister had a kind and compassionate spirit, yet she frequently found herself wandering through the maze of her own forgetfulness. She had previously requested that I purchase something for her, but this time felt different. I made my way to my chamber. She looked for the clothes she had left behind and took them down to the restroom. As I knocked, she swung the door open wider than usual, her hands moving swiftly to collect the scattered clothes. In that fleeting instant, the bathroom. Light cast a soft glow on her pale skin, illuminating every contour of her body in a way that took me by surprise. Confusion enveloped me, leading to a quick look away, but my heart continued to race and my eyes remained resolutely focused on the scene before me. Since that day, I, John, have felt a profound change within my heart. She remained my sister, the one person I felt closest to in the house, yet the eerie, unsettling sensation from that moment lingered, pulling me into a whirlpool of troubling thoughts. Uncertainty enveloped me as I wrestled with the challenge of confronting her, and in doing so, confronting myself. This year, my sister Anne marked her 24th birthday. She is an astonishing and confident woman who draws the attention of everyone around her. Her figure is graceful, her face is refined, and most notably, her waist draws attention in a way that is difficult to ignore. Embracing a free-spirited essence, she often adorns herself in sleek, form-fitting garments. Whether within the comfort of her home or amidst the vibrant world beyond, those costumes appear to enhance her beauty in every imaginable manner. Whether by design or happenstance, they stirred my heart with every fleeting glance. Since that night when I caught a fleeting glimpse of her in the bathroom through the half-open door, my heart has changed completely. The gentle yellow glow illuminated her fair skin, while the sparkling water flowed gracefully over her curves, etching the moment into my memory forever. Such events should not have occurred, nor should they have lingered in my thoughts for so long. Yet that feeling, that fixation, lingers like a ghost, haunting me and refusing to leave. At first, I aimed to comfort myself with the belief that everything would eventually pass and that the vision was simply an unfortunate occurrence. Yet, each night as I settled into bed, the images of the day returned to me with vivid clarity. There were moments when I would awaken in the stillness of night, beads of cold sweat tracing down my forehead, grappling with the unwelcome thoughts that invaded my mind. Yet, with each attempt to resist, those emotions only intensified, constricting around me like a vice, each day much like a fire that devoured my reason. She continued her tranquil life in our humble home, blissfully unaware of the turmoil stirring within me. She chuckled and teased me as always, her familiar clear voice resonating in my ears. What I once considered ordinary now felt extraordinary. Just a glance at her sparkling eyes or a whiff of the delightful perfume she wore stirred something profound within my heart. I found myself struggling to articulate the reasons behind my emotions. All I comprehended was that I had become disconnected from my authentic self. Her fitted attire added a layer of complexity as she settled onto the sofa, legs elegantly crossed while watching TV, or when she gathered her hair, revealing her graceful neck and bare shoulders. Each detail captivated me in a web of conflicting emotions. Humiliation enveloped me, a profound sense of shame intertwined with an undeniable longing that lingered in the recesses of my mind. Nevertheless, I made an effort to uphold a sense of serene composure. I conversed and shared laughter with her as if the past had never happened. I helped her with minor chores around the house, engaged in casual conversation about daily topics, and occasionally playfully jested with her. I yearned to see her smile, yet beneath those interactions lay an invisible struggle, one whose resolution eluded my understanding. I turned my gaze away, reluctant to hold her eyes for more than a brief instant, fearing she might reveal the chaos inside me. After a long day, I decided to relax in my room with a film intended for mature audiences. This wasn't my first encounter with such a situation, yet perhaps due to my fluctuating emotions and the chaotic whirlwind of my thoughts, everything seemed more captivating than ever before. After watching, I reclined on the bed, enveloped in a haze, the vivid images and emotions lingering in my thoughts until a sudden knock on the door brought me back to the present. "John, would you join me outside for a moment? Let's collect some vegetables for dinner." Her remarks, as always, walked the fine line between urgency and tenderness. I responded positively, requesting a moment, and quickly stood up, adjusting my clothing while briefly overlooking the lack of undergarments as I headed to the living room. Anne's image immediately drew me in. She donned a fitted t-shirt that highlighted her slender waist and short shorts that displayed her long, pale legs. Each of those impeccable lines left my mind momentarily empty. The thoughts I had tried to hold back surged forth like a tumultuous tide, an unusual feeling enveloping me. The rose within my heart blossomed with a mix of admiration and confusion, a puzzle I found impossible to unravel. I sought to keep my composure, to set aside the whirlwind of emotions rising within me as I approached her, yet my body betrayed my intentions, reacting contrary to my wishes. I could sense my small companion, stirring to life, and to complicate matters further, I had completely overlooked the fact that I was without any undergarments. My entire essence appeared to conspire against my thoughts, thrusting me into a disconcerting and chaotic predicament, as she burst into laughter, her voice echoing through the stillness of the hall. She looked at me, her eyes filled with an indescribable feeling. Her laughter was an enigma, leaving me curious about its origin. "What appears to be the issue? Is there anything entertaining?" I tried to conceal my surprise, but her laughter only grew louder, prompting her to turn away to avoid my stare. "John, stepping out in this way isn't advantageous for you," she exclaimed. Her hand pressed against her lips as she struggled to hold back a laugh. I stood there, frozen like a statue in the center of the living room, utterly bewildered as she released a gentle laugh. I asked, "What is bothering you? Did I do something entertaining?" Yet she shook her head, attempting to conceal her embarrassment. "No, it's absolutely nothing. Elevate to the higher level." "I'll go alone," she declared, her tone wavering yet earnest, as if she were grappling with an inner turmoil she wished to keep concealed. I stood still, staring at her, completely bewildered. What was her original reason for wanting me to join her? Merely to encourage her to embark on her own journey. Although I had my reservations, a sense of uncertainty remained regarding what additional questions to ask. Upon re-entering the room, my mind was a flurry of thoughts. As I walked past the mirror, my eyes paused, and I realized the reason behind her laughter. I discovered that I was without undergarments while my son had been proudly showcasing his flag for a while. My face turned crimson with embarrassment. I found myself paralyzed, enveloped in embarrassment, struggling with doubt about my next step. The melody of her laughter echoed in my thoughts. Were you not aware of that? Clearly she did. Otherwise, such a joyful laugh would not have escaped her lips. Yet what prevented her from expressing it openly? What led her to hesitantly ask for my departure? Upon my return to the room, a flurry of questions emerged, quickening the rhythm of my heartbeat. Was she simply entertained by the humorous situation, or was there a more profound purpose behind her laughter? I lay back on the bed, my hands covering my face, longing to flee from the disquieting feeling that surrounded me. Yet the image of Anne, her laughter resonating, and that peculiar sense of disorientation lingered on. I found myself contemplating whether she regarded me with the same esteem as I did her, or if my insecurities were simply a result of circumstance. A deep sense of regret filled my heart. Yet amidst it all, a flicker of hope ignited within me, and upon returning home her presence lingered in my thoughts, steadfast and unwavering. A lingering sense of embarrassment clung to me, and though uncertainty clouded my thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling that she had caught a glimpse of something amusing moments earlier. The deeper my thoughts delved, the more my cheeks flushed, as though I had been caught in a moment of vulnerability. Nevertheless, I urged myself to keep my composure and act as if everything was perfectly fine. My sister and I headed to the kitchen, determined to prepare dinner while trying to embody our typical spirit. Upon entering, I promptly expressed my thoughts, as is my habit. "Your back is here. Is the market lively with a throng of individuals?" And did not glance back. She responded with a clear understanding, recognizing that while everything was satisfactory, it felt a bit overwhelming. "I kindly request your presence and support." I approached her, nodding as I drew nearer to the area where she was carefully washing the vegetables. I settled in and started to sort each branch of vegetables for her to prepare for boiling. The room held a stillness, punctuated only by the gentle trickle of water from the sink faucet. Yet within me, the tension simmered just beneath the surface. I found myself unsure whether she genuinely understood the events that had just transpired, or if I was simply making things more complicated. I thought that by deciding not to mention it again, everything might just gradually disappear. Yet, in that very instant, her voice cut through the air, causing me to tense up. "Have you completed it yet?" I was completely amazed. Her words hit me unexpectedly, sending waves through my already delicate mind. Though I understood the essence of her implication, I lacked the courage to confront it. My entire being became, still, ensnared in a moment of uncertainty, unsure of how to react. My heart raced, yet I pretended not to understand her meaning. "Ah, I have successfully finished the task of dismantling it. It should be fine, shouldn't it?" She glanced my way, her eyes sparkling with a playful and mysterious charm. She presented a warm smile and a slight nod. "If you have completed it, then allow it to be. I am ready to move forward." Her voice was unremarkable, yet there was an oddity in her words, tinged with humor, laced with playfulness, that left me feeling profoundly embarrassed. I stayed quiet, simply nodding as I stood up and then headed upstairs. "Continue with your reflections." A subtle wave of fatigue enveloped me, and with a gentle smile I opted for silence. I slipped out of the kitchen with careful grace, attempting to maintain an air of nonchalance, yet my heart raced with a whirlwind of emotions as I returned to my room. I collapsed onto the bed, a tide of shame and embarrassment enveloping me. Her question echoed in my mind, prompting me to consider whether she genuinely understood the thoughts swirling within me. I lay back on the bed, my hands covering my face, overwhelmed by a feeling of confusion and helplessness. I must practice self-control. This is my sister, and truly, she is my sister. I expressed it as a gentle suggestion, yet the image of her, in the kitchen, her radiant smile and her playful voice remained vivid in my thoughts. After the family had finished dinner that night, I found myself unable to break free. I withdrew to my room, resolute in my intention to organize the mess that had gathered in the corner of my desk. The tranquility enveloped the room, interrupted only by the soft symphony of insects serenading the night beyond the window. While I occupied myself with the task of arranging my books, a soft knock at the door drew my attention. "Who could it possibly be?" I asked, my tone filled with curiosity. It was Esme, her voice echoing in soft and familiar tones. "Would you be so kind as to help me with something if it's not too much trouble?" I promptly replied, "No problem at all. What do you require?" With each word I approached and carefully eased the door open. She stood before me, yet my attention was instantly captivated by her pajamas. The nightgown was a gentle hue of light blue silk, elegantly cascading over her flawless white skin, radiating an essence of delicate charm. The dress featured a deep V-neck, gracefully highlighting her collarbone and slender shoulders. My heart raced, yet I strove to maintain a calm exterior. With a mischievous smile, she entered the room, her phone securely clutched in her hand. "There appears to be a problem with my phone. It crashes every time I try to open the program, and I'm unsure of the reason. I tried to restart it, but it was unsuccessful. Could you please lend me your assistance?" I tilted my head and took the phone from her hand. "Let me take a shot at it. It is likely just a software glitch, possibly arising from an app conflict or an operating system update," and remained as composed as ever. Her presence in this confined space, especially dressed in her pajamas, left me utterly perplexed. I looked at my phone, exploring the settings with interest. As expected, her operating system was outdated and incompatible with the latest version of the application. I explained that your phone needs an update to its operating system. Please grant me the opportunity to download the latest update, reinstall it, and everything will be in order. Is that really the case? What a sense of relief. I was concerned it might be damaged, she said, her voice gentle and calm as I leaned closer, grappling with the download. The update. I felt her eyes on me. I stole a fleeting look at her from the edge of my sight. Her gaze was not fixed on the phone or my actions. Rather, her eyes were directed downward, resting upon me. In that moment, she offered a smile, mysterious and fleeting, leaving me in a state of confusion. I paused, attempting to hide my embarrassment, but inside, my confusion grew to an overwhelming extent. I recognized that expression, grasped the revelation that had just unfolded before her, yet I found myself too hesitant to confront it or articulate the truth. I successfully reinstalled it, I stammered, trying to alleviate the uncomfortable tension in the air. Oh, so fast? Thank you, she responded, a gentle smile remaining on her lips. She took the phone back from my hand, her eyes briefly meeting mine, as if trying to gauge my reaction. It's simply a minor mistake, nothing beyond that, I replied, attempting to uphold a sense of calm. Yet deep down I recognized that this serenity was simply a facade. Her appearance and delicate gestures today stirred a whirlwind of emotions that I found difficult to contain. After I had returned Anne's phone, thinking that everything was settled, I prepared to stand and observe her leave the room. Before I could utter a word, she pivoted, leaning in and asking, "Anne, is something wrong?" From across the table, she inquired, her voice gentle yet filled with meaning. "Do I appear beautiful, John?" The unexpected question left me contemplating how best to respond. I presented a tentative smile, looking for a way to shift his focus. "Isn't it truly magnificent? What has led you to inquire about that all of a sudden? Is there a problem?" "And SM, that is exactly why you extended your salute." Her words hit me like a thunderbolt, causing a rush of warmth to flood my face. My heart raced and my entire being was engulfed in confusion, unsure of how to respond. I quickly shook my head, rejecting it immediately. "Absolutely not. That's not the case at all. What are you envisioning?" Yet her gaze remained fixed on me, and the gentle curve of her smile heightened my sense of embarrassment. With each deliberate step, she drew nearer, and I couldn't shake the sensation that this confined space was tightening around me. I took a step back, trying to keep my distance, but in a flash, she lunged forward, her hands clasping my shoulders, her face just inches from mine. "John, what are you afraid of? We are both adults, and I can sense the thoughts swirling in your mind." I had seen it all before, and I turned away, reluctant to meet her gaze. "What is it that you mean? This has gone on long enough, it's no longer entertaining." "Yet," she continued, inching closer, her warm breath brushing against my neck, intensifying my unease. "John, why are you maintaining your distance from me?" "I understand your desire." Anna's voice was gentle, yet her words pierced through my thoughts. The atmosphere became dense and my heart quickened as if it might spring from my chest. "Please refrain from saying it," I implored, my voice trembling yet firm, a shield against the looming danger. I stepped back, creating distance between us, my eyes focused intently on her. "Do you genuinely comprehend what you are expressing? This is as wrong. And you're my sister." Her eyes flashed with pain for a minute. She moved forward, her voice low and almost begging. "John, stop lying to yourself. I can see everything in your eyes. You do not need to hide or fake your emotions." I felt my entire body freeze, but my mind was powerful enough to resist. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm in the midst of my confusion and anxiety. "No, you're wrong. I don't think like that. I don't want that. We are brothers. We are family." She halted, her face full of misery and guilt. Her eyes searched mine for a signal to continue, but I remained focused, determined not to let her go any further. Finally, she averted her gaze as if she did not dare to confront the truth. her voice lowered to a sorrowful whisper. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why I'm like this. Maybe I should go back to my room. She turned away. Each slow stride seemed to drag the unpleasant atmosphere that remained in the room after the door was closed. I collapsed on the bed, feeling as if I just escaped a big hurricane. My mind was in complete pandemonium with no way out. Anne's remarks kept repeating in my mind, and each term and word seemed to penetrate deep into my soul. She said, I didn't have to pretend to want her. Those statements appeared to betray the feelings I had tried to suppress. Even I was reluctant to admit she was correct. I couldn't deny that after several seemingly unintentional encounters, I had bad sentiments about her. But my reason was strong enough to remind me that she was my sister, and we could never cross that line. I recognized how dangerous this situation was. Her every word and action tonight had demolished the fragile barrier between us. If I didn't stay rational, if I let myself go even once, everything would fall apart, beyond repair. I sat in the empty room, my heart pounding with sorrow. I wasn't sure who to blame, her or myself, for letting things get this far. That night, I was unable to sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the black ceiling, reflecting on what had happened in just one day. My relationship with her had shifted tremendously. I remembered her eyes, her smile, and the conflicting hidden words. She was the person I had always admired and felt was closest to me. But now everything was so complicated that I couldn't face the notion of what would happen tomorrow. If I stayed here, would I eventually lose control of myself? I have come to understand that regardless of the strength of human emotions, they cannot resist the pull of temptation if not properly managed. I found myself too close, too familiar, and too apprehensive about the possible outcomes. The idea of eliminating all boundaries burdened my mind. After a long night of reflection, I decided to take a daring step forward. I realized that the only way to protect myself from making a permanent error was to depart. I needed to establish some distance, to provide myself with the space required to keep these emotions at bay. This decision was not merely a solution for the current situation, but also a way to safeguard our beloved family connections. The next morning, as the family assembled for breakfast, I decided to express my intentions. My tone was earnest, yet tinged with uncertainty. Mom, Dad, I believe it's time for me to move out. My father set down his teacup, his expression one of astonishment. Why do you suddenly wish to leave? At your age, wouldn't it be more sensible to stay at home? Is there a problem? My mother looked at me, her eyes brimming with worry. Is there something troubling you, John? Or do you feel a sense of unease within the walls of your home? I kindly ask you to share your thoughts with us, I urged, attempting to conceal my inner turmoil with a smile intended to reassure my parents. Mom, Dad, I feel like I've reached a point where independence is crucial. I genuinely believe that embarking on my own journey will teach me how to navigate life and better prepare me for what lies ahead. My father's brow furrowed, a sign of deep contemplation, but after a moment he nodded slowly. If this is your decision, we will respect it. However, if you face any difficulties, please feel free to get in touch. You can always return home. He then looked at my mother, whose concern was evident yet unvoiced. Ensure that you prioritize your well-being. Do you require assistance with locating a place, relocating your belongings, or anything else? I knew this was the best decision for Anne and myself. I needed time and space to process these emotions in order to be myself again and keep the family together after all I had been through. I learned an important lesson. Emotions are challenging to manage, but not impossible. Moments of weakness can enable us to become swept up in hazy emotions, easily crossing the line of morality and family connections. Yet being conscious of right and wrong and keeping sensible are key aspects in preventing permanent mistakes. I believe that sharing your feelings is not wrong, but understanding how to set proper limits is sometimes important. Distance was built, not to flee, but to protect more essential ideas: love, respect, and self-esteem. The most significant lesson I learned is that courage is not only about facing problems, but also about knowing when to walk away in order to save the finest things. The decision to leave a dangerous situation is not a sign of weakness. but rather a necessary one, to keep yourself and those around you from being harmed by the story. I have some advice for everyone. In life, we cannot avoid unforeseen events that trigger uncontrollable emotions. These emotions, whether momentary or long-lasting, might lead to mistakes if we don't know how to handle them properly. As a result, my advice is to always be smart and aware of boundaries in all interactions. When you find yourself caught up in an uncontrollable emotional spiral, pause and ask yourself, is this emotion worth sacrificing for precious possessions? Mindfulness and self-reflection can help you recognize how acting on your emotions can jeopardize values you care about, such as familial bonds, honor, or self-esteem. If you are having trouble restraining yourself, do not be afraid to remove yourself or seek assistance from family, friends, or mental health professional. Avoidance is not a sign of weakness, but rather a tactic for protecting yourself from more serious damage. Remember that the decisions you make today can affect both your own and others' futures. Maintaining boundaries and adhering to your views and principles is the most effective way to live a peaceful and happy life. My story ends here. Thank you for hearing my story. See you in the following videos.